They always said they couldn't afford to celebrate me while renting out ballrooms for my sister. I said nothing. Until I bought a private lake house and posted, "Thanks for the motivation." Their jealous reactions came fast and loud. Growing up in the Henderson household in suburban Minneapolis meant learning early which child mattered and which one didn't. My parents, Richard and Susan Henderson, made it crystal clear from the moment my older sister Madison turned 16 and received a brand new BMW while I got a happy birthday text on my 18th. The pattern started when we were young, but it crystallized during high school. Madison's Sweet 16 party cost more than most people's annual salaries. They rented the grand ballroom at the Marriott, hired a professional DJ, brought in a catering company from downtown, and even arranged for a chocolate fountain that looked like something from Willy Wonka. 200 guests showed up to celebrate Madison's transition into young adulthood, and the whole affair was documented by a professional photographer whose services alone cost $3,000. My 16th birthday fell on a Tuesday. Mom made a boxed cake and stuck 16 candles in it. "We're keeping things simple this year, Emma," Dad explained while scrolling through his phone during dinner. "Money's tight, and you understand these things better than your sister does." Madison beamed from across the table, still wearing the diamond bracelet they'd given her the month before just because. She was a senior then, already talking about her upcoming graduation party and how she wanted it to be even bigger than her Sweet 16. The excuses became a soundtrack to my adolescence. "We can't afford driving lessons right now, Emma." Meanwhile, Madison got a professional driving instructor and a learner's car to practice in. "College visits are expensive, sweetie." Madison toured 12 different campuses across the country, staying in hotels and eating at fancy restaurants along the way. When graduation approached, I assumed maybe this milestone would be different. Surely finishing high school with a 4.2 GPA and early acceptance to Northwestern University would warrant some recognition. I'd worked 2 part-time jobs throughout junior and senior year, saving every penny for college expenses they insisted they couldn't help with. Madison's graduation party the following year had been held at the country club. They'd invited everyone from church, all the neighbors, extended family from 3 states, and most of her graduating class. The event featured a live band, an ice sculpture shaped like a graduation cap, and a dessert bar that stretched along the entire back wall. Dad gave a 20-minute speech about Madison's accomplishments, which mainly consisted of making varsity cheerleading and maintaining a 3.1 GPA. My graduation party 2 years later was scheduled for our backyard. Mom suggested I could invite a few close friends and maybe some family. She picked up a sheet cake from the grocery store and hung streamers from the porch railing. When I asked about inviting my extended family like they had for Madison, Dad shook his head firmly. "Emma, you know we've had some unexpected expenses lately. Your grandmother's birthday gift for Madison was quite expensive, and we're still paying off Madison's senior trip to Europe. We need to be realistic about what we can manage." 8 people showed up to my graduation party. My best friend Jessica brought a card with $20 inside, which made me cry in the bathroom because it was more than my own parents had spent on my gift. They'd given me a used laptop they'd found at a pawn shop, explaining that college students didn't need anything fancy. College became my escape route and my proving ground. Northwestern was expensive, but I'd received academic scholarships and took out loans for the rest. I worked in the campus library, tutored struggling students, and spent summers doing internships that barely covered my living expenses. Every phone call home featured updates about Madison's social life at the University of Minnesota, her sorority activities, and the new car they bought her when the BMW got a scratch in the parking lot. "We really wish we could help you more with college costs, Emma," Mom would say during these calls. "But supporting Madison through college is expensive too, and we need to save for her future." Madison got engaged during her senior year of college to Blake Morrison, whose family owned a chain of successful restaurants throughout the Twin Cities. The engagement party was held at the same country club where they'd celebrated her graduation, and the guest list included 300 people. I found out about it through Facebook, seeing pictures of the elaborate floral arrangements and the professional videographer capturing every moment. I called home to ask why I hadn't been invited. "Oh, sweetie, we assumed you'd be too busy with finals to make the trip back to Minneapolis," Mom explained. "Plus, travel is so expensive for college students." The wedding took place 6 months later, during my senior year at Northwestern. The ceremony was everything they'd promised it would be: 500 guests, a cathedral ceremony, a reception that lasted until midnight, and a honeymoon in Tuscany that lasted 3 weeks. I received an invitation 3 weeks before the wedding, clearly an afterthought. I couldn't afford the trip home and the required bridesmaid expenses on my student budget, but when I explained this, Mom suggested I figure something out because family should be there for important moments. I graduated from Northwestern with honors and a degree in finance, landing a job at a prestigious investment firm in Chicago specializing in real estate investment trusts. My graduation ceremony was on a Saturday, and I bought my parents plane tickets months in advance, explaining that I really wanted them there for this milestone. They called the night before to cancel. Madison's bridal shower is this weekend, Emma. We completely forgot when we said we'd come. You understand how important this is for your sister. Standing in that auditorium, watching other families celebrate their graduates, I made a decision. I was done hoping for their approval, their attention, or their pride. I would build my own life, achieve my own success, and stop waiting for recognition that would never come. The investment firm proved to be an ideal launching pad for my career. We specialized in real estate investment trusts and property development financing, which meant I learned both the financial and practical sides of real estate. I worked 80-hour weeks, learned everything I could about markets and property valuation, and saved aggressively. Within 3 years, I'd been promoted twice and had built a substantial personal investment portfolio. My colleagues became my chosen family, celebrating promotions and milestones the way I'd always imagined families should. Madison's wedding was everything they'd promised it would be. 500 guests, a cathedral ceremony, a reception that lasted until midnight, and a honeymoon in Tuscany that lasted 3 weeks. The ceremony was beautiful, and Madison looked stunning, but I spent most of the reception watching my parents beam with pride and thinking about all the opportunities I'd missed while they focused entirely on her achievements. During the father-daughter dance, Dad's speech praised Madison's grace, beauty, and ability to find such a wonderful husband. He talked about how proud he was to have raised such a remarkable young woman, and how blessed they felt to be gaining Blake as a son. He never mentioned having 2 daughters. After the wedding, family interactions became even more sporadic. Madison and Blake bought a house in Edina, just 15 minutes from our parents in suburban Minneapolis, and Sunday dinners became weekly celebrations of their lives. I was still in Chicago, building my career and developing expertise in real estate investment trusts that most people twice my age hadn't mastered. The real turning point came during my 26th birthday. I'd called home, hoping maybe this year would be different. Mom answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "Oh, Emma, happy birthday. I'm sorry, I can't talk long. Madison's throwing a housewarming party tomorrow, and I'm helping with the preparations. You know how these things are." "What housewarming party?" I asked. "Didn't we tell you? Madison and Blake bought a bigger house. It's absolutely gorgeous, Emma. 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and the most beautiful kitchen you've ever seen. They're having a huge party to show it off. They just bought a house 18 months ago. Well, Blake's restaurants are doing so well, and Madison deserves to have nice things. You know how hard it is being a restaurant owner's wife." Madison had never worked a day in her life. Blake supported her completely while she pursued what she called creative interests, which mainly involved redecorating their homes and planning elaborate parties. "Did you want to wish me a happy birthday, or should I let you go plan Madison's party?" The silence stretched for several seconds. "Of course, sweetie. I hope you have a wonderful day. Are you doing anything special?" I was, actually. My colleagues had planned a surprise celebration at one of Chicago's finest restaurants, and afterward we were going to see a show I'd been wanting to catch for months. But sharing that would only result in Mom comparing it to whatever elaborate celebration they were planning for Madison's housewarming. "Nothing too special," I said. "Just dinner with friends." After hanging up, I sat in my Chicago apartment looking out at the city skyline and made another decision. I was done expecting anything from them. I would stop hoping for phone calls on important days, stop wondering if they'd acknowledge my achievements, stop caring whether they understood who I'd become. My career trajectory accelerated over the next few years, but the path wasn't always smooth. The financial industry demanded everything I had, and I gave it willingly because work became my refuge from family disappointments. I specialized in identifying undervalued properties and turning them into profitable real estate investment trusts, spending weekends driving through neighborhoods others had written off, looking for diamonds in the rough. The breakthrough came during my 5th year at the firm when I identified a struggling shopping center in a rapidly gentrifying area of Chicago. While other analysts saw empty storefronts and declining foot traffic, I saw potential. The location was perfect, the bones of the buildings were solid, and the rent was artificially low due to previous mismanagement. I convinced 3 clients to pool their resources for a joint investment, and we purchased the entire complex for 40% below market value. 18 months later, after strategic renovations and carefully curated tenant selection, the property was generating triple the previous income. My clients saw returns that exceeded their most optimistic projections, and word spread quickly through Chicago's investment circles about the young woman who could spot opportunities others missed. That success opened doors I hadn't known existed. Suddenly I was invited to exclusive industry events, private investment circles, and social gatherings where deals were made over expensive wine and carefully prepared appetizers. I learned to navigate these spaces with confidence, building relationships that would prove invaluable as my career progressed. But success in professional circles only highlighted the emptiness in my personal relationships. During this period, Madison's life continued its predictable pattern of celebrations and recognition. Her third wedding anniversary was commemorated with a party that rivaled some people's actual weddings. Blake surprised her with a European cruise, and Mom called me specifically to describe every detail of Madison's Instagram posts from their trip. "Emma, you should see the pictures from Rome. Madison looks absolutely radiant, and the hotel Blake chose overlooks the Vatican. They're having such a romantic time, and Blake is treating her like absolute royalty." I was in my Chicago office, reviewing financial projections for a multi-million-dollar commercial development, when this call came through. "That sounds wonderful, Mom. I'm glad they're enjoying themselves. You know, Emma, Madison was just saying how much she'd love to plan a trip for you sometime. Maybe you could take some time off work and join them on their next vacation? Blake's family has connections all over Europe, and I'm sure they'd be happy to include you." The offer stung in ways I couldn't immediately articulate. Madison would plan a trip for me like I was some charity case who couldn't afford my own vacation. The assumption that I'd be grateful to tag along on their romantic getaway revealed how little they understood about my life or my success. "Actually, Mom, I just booked a trip to Japan next month. I'm meeting with some international real estate investment groups about a Tokyo commercial development project." The silence on the other end lasted several seconds. "Oh. Well, that sounds business-focused. Don't you ever take vacations just for fun?" "My work is fun, Mom. I love what I do, and traveling for business allows me to see the world while building my career." "I suppose that's nice, dear. Madison was just saying she worries about you working so much. She thinks you might be missing out on the important things in life." Madison worried about me missing out on important things while I was closing deals worth more than most people earned in a decade. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so revealing about their perception of success and fulfillment. The Tokyo trip proved to be another turning point. I spent 2 weeks meeting with developers, touring properties, and learning about international real estate investment opportunities. The project I was consulting on involved converting historic buildings into luxury residential spaces while preserving their cultural significance. Working with architects and city planners who shared my passion for thoughtful development felt like finding my professional tribe. On the final night of the trip, I had dinner with Hiroshi Tanaka, the lead developer on the project. Over sake and conversation about sustainable development practices, he asked about my long-term goals. "Emma-san, you have excellent instincts for property development and strong relationships with investment clients. Have you considered starting your own real estate investment firm?" The question caught me completely off guard. I'd been so focused on building my reputation within the existing company structure that I'd never seriously considered independence. I've thought about it occasionally, but starting a firm requires substantial capital and an established client base. "You have both of these things," Hiroshi said matter-of-factly. "Your clients trust your judgment, and your success rate speaks for itself. In Japan, we believe that when someone has mastered their craft, they should share that mastery by teaching others and building something new." Flying back to Chicago, I couldn't stop thinking about his words. I had built substantial personal wealth through careful investing and aggressive saving. My client relationships were strong enough that many would likely follow me to an independent firm. And frankly, I was tired of generating enormous profits for partners who hadn't taken the risks or done the groundwork for the deals I was closing. Over the next 8 months, I quietly laid the groundwork for Henderson Real Estate Investments. The name choice was deliberate. I wanted to honor the family that had shaped me, even if their influence hadn't always been positive. I secured office space in one of Chicago's most prestigious buildings, hired 2 junior analysts who shared my vision for ethical real estate development, and began the process of transitioning my most loyal clients to the new firm. The launch party for Henderson Real Estate Investments was held on a Thursday evening in October. I'd invited clients, industry colleagues, and the handful of personal friends who'd supported my career journey. The event was elegant but not ostentatious, professional catering, good wine, and a presentation about our firm's philosophy of sustainable real estate development and client partnership. 60 people attended, including some of Chicago's most influential investors and developers. The evening felt like a celebration of everything I'd worked toward, surrounded by people who understood and appreciated the significance of striking out independently in such a competitive industry. I posted a few pictures from the event on social media, mainly for professional networking purposes. The photos showed our beautiful office space, some moments from my presentation, and the genuinely happy faces of people who'd supported this venture. My phone rang Saturday morning. Madison's voice was bright with forced enthusiasm. "Emma, I saw the pictures from your office party. It looked so fancy and professional. I had no idea you were starting your own company." "I've been planning it for months, Madison. It's been a pretty intensive process." "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "Mom and Dad had no idea you were doing something this big. They're a little hurt that you didn't share such important news." "When was the last time any of you asked about my career plans or professional goals? I don't typically share updates about things people haven't expressed interest in hearing about." "Emma, that's not fair. Of course we're interested in your life." "Are you? When did any of you last ask about my work, my goals, or my achievements? When did you last celebrate a promotion or acknowledge a professional milestone?" Madison was quiet for a moment. "I guess. I mean, you're always so busy, and your work seems so complicated." "It's only complicated if you don't care enough to ask questions or show interest. Blake's restaurant business isn't particularly simple, but I'm sure you understand what he does because you care about his success." "That's different, Emma. Blake is my husband. And I'm your sister, Madison. But you've never shown the same curiosity about my career that you'd show for a stranger at a cocktail party." The conversation ended with Madison promising to be more supportive going forward, but her promises felt hollow after decades of disinterest. The real validation came through my clients' responses to the new firm. Within the first year, Henderson Real Estate Investments had grown to manage over $30 million in assets. We'd successfully completed 3 major development projects, and our client retention rate was nearly perfect. Industry publications began featuring articles about our innovative approaches to sustainable development, and I was invited to speak at conferences across the country. But perhaps the most satisfying achievement was the mentorship program I established for young women entering finance and real estate. Having navigated the industry without family support or guidance, I understood how isolating it could feel to build a career while questioning whether you belonged in these spaces. Every month, I hosted networking dinners for women at various stages of their careers. We discussed strategies for client development, negotiation techniques, and the importance of building strong professional relationships. These women became part of my chosen family, celebrating each other's successes and providing support during challenging periods. During one of these dinners, Sarah Mitchell, a brilliant young analyst I'd been mentoring, raised her wine glass for a toast. "I want to thank Emma for creating this space where we can be honest about the challenges we face and celebrate our achievements without apologizing for our ambition. Some of us didn't grow up in families that understood or supported our professional goals, but we've created our own community here." The words hit me deeply because they articulated something I'd been feeling but couldn't express. I had created the kind of supportive community I'd always wished for, built around shared values and mutual respect rather than biological relationships or social obligations. Real estate became my passion and my expertise, and by 30, I was managing a personal investment portfolio worth over $2 million. My client list included some of Chicago's wealthiest families, and my reputation for generating consistent returns had made me one of the most sought-after real estate investment advisors in the city. But more importantly, I'd built a professional family that understood the value of consistent support and genuine celebration of each other's achievements. The lake house discovery happened during a client meeting. Mrs. Patricia Whitman, whose family had owned various properties throughout the Midwest for generations, mentioned wanting to sell a piece of land in northern Wisconsin that had been in her family for decades. "It's absolutely beautiful, Emma, but we never use it anymore. My late husband built a small cabin there in the 70s, but it needs significant work. The property includes about 200 feet of private lakefront and 15 acres of wooded land. I just don't have the energy to deal with it anymore." She showed me photographs that took my breath away. The lake was pristine, surrounded by towering pine trees and rolling hills that looked like something from a nature documentary. The existing cabin was modest but well-built, with huge windows facing the water and a wraparound porch that looked perfect for morning coffee and evening sunsets. The property stretched back from the lake through wooded acreage, providing complete privacy. "What kind of price range are you considering?" I asked, trying to keep my voice professional while my heart raced with possibilities. "Well, it's been appraised at $450,000, but honestly, I'd prefer to sell it to someone who would appreciate it rather than a developer who might ruin its character." If you know anyone who might be interested. I made an offer that afternoon. The renovation process took 18 months and every spare moment I had. I hired local contractors who understood the vision, transformed the modest cabin into a stunning lakefront retreat while preserving its natural character. We expanded the main structure, added a master suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water, installed a gourmet kitchen that could handle entertaining, and built a sprawling deck that extended almost to the water's edge. The finished product was breathtaking. The great room featured a massive stone fireplace, exposed beam ceilings, and panoramic lake views that changed with every season. The kitchen had professional-grade appliances and enough space to cook for 20 people. The master bedroom felt like a luxury hotel suite, with a fireplace, sitting area, and a bathroom that included a soaking tub position to take advantage of the water views. The property also included a renovated boathouse, a private dock extending into the lake, and enough outdoor space to entertain large groups while still feeling intimate and secluded. I'd spent nearly 2 years and a substantial portion of my investment earnings creating something truly special. During the final stages of renovation, I decided it was time to share my achievement with the world. I'd barely spoken to my family in months, communicating mainly through occasional text messages and awkward phone calls. They knew I was doing well professionally, but they had no idea how well. More importantly, they had no idea I'd been following their social media activities and had seen every celebration, every vacation, and every milestone they'd shared publicly while never once reaching out to include me. I spent an afternoon taking professional quality photographs of the property. The morning shots captured mist rising off the lake and sunlight filtering through the trees. The afternoon pictures showed the house from various angles, highlighting the architectural details and the stunning natural setting. The evening photos were magical, with warm light glowing from every window and the deck lights reflecting off the calm water. My Instagram account had never been particularly active, mainly featuring occasional pictures from Chicago events and work gatherings. But for this moment, I wanted to create something that would get attention. I selected the most stunning photograph, an evening shot of the entire property with the lake stretching into the distance, and crafted a caption that said everything I'd been thinking for decades. Just closed on my private lake house in northern Wisconsin. 15 acres, 200 feet of private lakefront, and complete solitude when I need it. Thanks for the motivation to become completely self-sufficient. Sometimes the best revenge is success. #LakeLife #selfmade #worth the wait. I tagged the location as private residence, northern Wisconsin, and posted it at 7 p.m. on a Friday evening, knowing that most people would be scrolling through social media during their weekend downtime. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Friends from college, colleagues from work, and acquaintances from various Chicago social events began liking and commenting within minutes. The notifications kept coming throughout the evening, and by Saturday morning, the post had received over 300 likes and dozens of comments praising the property and asking for more details. But the responses I was really waiting for came Sunday afternoon. Madison was first, of course. Her comment appeared around 2 p.m. "OMG Emma, this is gorgeous. When did you buy this? Why didn't you tell anyone?" Then Mom, 30 minutes later, "Emma honey, this looks lovely. I had no idea you were looking at vacation homes. We should talk soon." Dad's response was more typical of his personality. "Nice place, Emma. Must have cost a fortune. Hope you didn't overextend yourself financially." By Sunday evening, my phone was buzzing with text messages. Madison had apparently spent the day calling everyone in the family, and now they all wanted details. My Aunt Linda, who hadn't spoken to me in 2 years, sent a long message asking about property values in Wisconsin and whether I was planning to rent it out. My cousin Rebecca, who'd never shown any interest in my life, suddenly wanted to know all about my real estate investments. But the most telling response came Monday morning. Mom called while I was having coffee on my new deck, watching the sunrise paint the lake in shades of gold and pink. "Emma, sweetheart, I've been thinking about your beautiful lake house all weekend. It's absolutely stunning, and I'm so proud of what you've accomplished." "Thank you," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "I was wondering. Your father and I have been looking for a place to take a vacation this summer. We've been so stressed with everything going on, and a lakefront retreat sounds perfect. Would you be open to us visiting sometime?" The audacity was breathtaking. 32 years of being treated as an afterthought, and now that I had something they wanted, suddenly they were proud of me. "Actually, Mom, I'm pretty booked up this summer. I've got clients coming up for weekends, and work colleagues who've been wanting to visit. Maybe we could talk about it next year." "Oh." The disappointment in her voice was palpable. "Well, I suppose. I mean, we just thought since we're family." "Since we're family," I interrupted gently, I'm sure you understand that I need to prioritize the people who've been consistently supportive of my goals and achievements. The silence stretched for nearly 30 seconds. Emma, if this is about birthday parties or graduation celebrations, you know we did the best we could at the time. Money was always tight, and Madison had different needs. Madison had different needs, I repeated. Like a BMW at 16 while I took the bus. Like a wedding that cost more than most people's houses while you couldn't afford plane tickets to my college graduation. Like housewarming parties for every new house while you forgot my birthday entirely last year. That's not fair, Emma. We love you both equally. Love doesn't have to be equal, Mom. But basic respect and acknowledgement should be consistent. I spent decades believing I wasn't worth celebrating because you taught me that lesson repeatedly. We never meant for you to feel that way. Intent doesn't change impact. I learned to celebrate my own achievements because no one else would. I learned to rely on myself because that's all I could count on. And now I have this beautiful property and a successful career because I stopped waiting for recognition that was never coming. After hanging up, I sat on my deck for a long time, watching boats move across the lake in the distance. The conversation had been years in the making, and saying those words out loud felt like releasing pressure that had been building my entire adult life. The family reactions continued throughout the week. Madison called Tuesday night, her voice a mixture of excitement and something that sounded like envy. Emma, I can't stop thinking about your lake house. It's literally like something from a magazine. Blake and I have been talking about getting a vacation property, but nothing we've looked at comes close to what you've got. It took me 2 years to find the right place and another 18 months to renovate it properly, I explained. Real estate investment is my specialty, so I knew exactly what I was looking for. 2 years? You never mentioned you were looking for property. We don't talk very often, Madison. When was the last time you called to ask how I was doing or what I was working on? She was quiet for a moment. I guess. I mean, we're both so busy with our own lives. Right. So you understand why I didn't think to mention my real estate ventures. But Emma, we're sisters. I want to know about the important things happening in your life. Like what? When was the last time you asked about my career, my goals, or my achievements? When did you last acknowledge a milestone in my life without being prompted? That's not. I mean, you never seem to need. I never seem to need what? Support? Recognition? Basic interest in my existence? The conversation ended awkwardly, with Madison promising we should get together soon and me giving noncommittal responses about checking my schedule. Wednesday brought a surprise call from Dad. He typically avoided emotional conversations, preferring to communicate through Mom, so his direct approach caught me off guard. Emma, your mother tells me you two had a difficult conversation Monday. I wanted to talk to you directly about this situation. What situation is that, Dad? This idea that we treated you and Madison differently. I know you're successful now, and we're proud of what you've accomplished, but these accusations about favoritism are concerning. Accusations? I felt my jaw tighten. Dad, you gave Madison a new car for her 16th birthday and told me money was too tight for driving lessons. You spent more on her engagement party than on my entire college education. You missed my college graduation to attend her wedding shower. Those situations were complicated, Emma. You're oversimplifying. Am I? Because from my perspective, the pattern was pretty clear. Madison got celebrations, recognition, and financial support. I got excuses about tight budgets and expectations that I should understand why I wasn't worth the investment. We always believed you were more independent, more capable of handling disappointment. So you decided to give me plenty of practice? He sighed heavily. Emma, I'm calling because we'd like to visit your lake house. Your mother has been talking about it constantly, and Madison showed us more pictures from your social media. It looks like a beautiful place to relax. And you think now that I have something you want, I should be grateful for the sudden interest in my life? That's not what this is about. Then what is it about, Dad? Because in 32 years, you've never called to congratulate me on a promotion, never asked about my career goals, never acknowledged my achievements unless someone else brought them up first. But now I have a lake house, and suddenly you want to spend time together. Emma, you're being unfair. We've always been proud of you. Pride is an action, not a feeling. Pride shows up at graduation ceremonies and birthday parties. Pride makes phone calls on important days and asks about goals and dreams. Pride doesn't wait for social media posts to discover what's happening in someone's life. The following weeks brought a parade of family members suddenly interested in reconnecting. My Aunt Linda called to discuss family bonds and mention how much she'd love to see the lake property. Cousin Rebecca suggested a family reunion at my place, since it was so perfect for entertaining. Even relatives I hadn't spoken to in years found reasons to reach out, all somehow working the lake house into their conversations. The most illuminating response came from Madison's mother-in-law, Patricia Morrison, who called me directly rather than going through family channels. "Emma, I hope you don't mind me calling out of the blue. Madison gave me your number because I wanted to discuss something with you privately." "Of course, Mrs. Morrison. How can I help you?" "Well, Blake has been talking nonstop about your lake property since Madison showed him the pictures. He's actually quite jealous, which is unusual for him. He's been asking Madison why she doesn't have the kind of financial success you do, and frankly, it's causing some tension in their marriage." This was an unexpected development. "I'm sorry to hear they're having difficulties." "Oh, it's not serious difficulties, just Blake is starting to realize that Madison has never actually worked or built anything independently. He's been supporting her completely, and now he's wondering why she can't be more like her sister who's clearly built substantial wealth through her own efforts. I appreciate you sharing this with me, Mrs. Morrison, but I'm not sure what you'd like me to do about their relationship dynamics. Actually, I was hoping you might be willing to let them visit your lake house. Blake thinks if Madison could experience the kind of success you've achieved, it might motivate her to pursue something more meaningful than redecorating houses and planning parties." The irony was staggering. For decades, I'd been compared unfavorably to Madison's social success and ability to attract a wealthy husband. Now her marriage was being strained because she couldn't match my financial independence. "Mrs. Morrison, I understand Blake's perspective, but my property isn't a motivational retreat for people who need to discover their work ethic. I built this place as a private sanctuary after years of building a career without family support or recognition." "I completely understand, Emma. I just wanted to ask directly rather than having Madison keep hinting about it to Blake." After that conversation, I realized the lake house had become more than a personal achievement. It had become a symbol of everything my family had never expected from me, and their sudden interest felt like validation of choices I'd made years earlier. The summer progressed with a steady stream of coincidental contact from family members. They'd call with random questions, work the lake house into conversations, and drop hints about their own need for relaxation and vacation time. I responded politely but firmly, explaining that I was booked with work commitments and hosting friends who'd been supportive throughout my career journey. In August, Madison made one final attempt. She called while I was actually at the lake house, hosting a weekend retreat for my investment team. "Emma, I need to be completely honest with you. Blake and I are going through some relationship challenges, and I think visiting your lake house might help us reconnect and give me some perspective on building a more independent life." I was sitting on my deck, watching my colleagues enjoy the property I'd created, and I felt nothing but clarity about my response. "Madison, I understand you're facing difficulties, but my lake house isn't a relationship counseling center. For 32 years, you received every celebration, every bit of financial support, every ounce of recognition and pride our parents had to offer. I built this place as a retreat from a lifetime of being treated as an afterthought. But Emma, we're sisters. Shouldn't family help each other?" "Sisters help each other, Madison. Families celebrate each other's achievements and show up for important moments. I learned to create my own support system because the one I was born into wasn't available to me." "That's not true. We love you." Love is a verb, Madison. Love shows up. Love celebrates achievements. Love doesn't wait for social media posts to discover what's happening in someone's life. "So you're never going to let any of us visit your lake house? You're going to shut out your entire family because of old resentments?" "I'm going to prioritize the people who prioritized me. The people who celebrated my promotions, who acknowledged my achievements, who showed interest in my goals and dreams. The people who made me feel valued before I had something they wanted." The conversation ended with Madison crying, which might have affected me more if I hadn't spent decades crying over being excluded from their celebrations. In September, I posted another picture from the lake house. This one showed my deck filled with colleagues and friends, all of us laughing and clearly enjoying ourselves. The caption read, "Grateful for chosen family who celebrate successes and share genuine joy. Some of life's best relationships are built on mutual respect and consistent support." The silence from my biological family was deafening. No comments, no likes, no phone calls. For the first time in my adult life, they seemed to understand that their sudden interest had been transparent and unwelcome. October brought the most satisfying validation of all. Mrs. Whitman, who'd sold me the lake property, called to tell me she'd heard about the renovation through local contractors. Emma, I drove by your place last weekend, and I have to tell you, it's absolutely stunning. You've created something magical while respecting the natural beauty of the location. My late husband would be thrilled to see what you've done with his favorite spot. Thank you, Mrs. Whitman. That means more to me than you know. I also wanted to tell you something interesting. Apparently, your renovation has increased property values throughout the area. Several neighbors have commented about how your improvements inspired them to upgrade their own places. You've had a positive impact on the entire lake community. Now, as I sit on my deck watching the first snow of November dust the pine trees, I can honestly say I feel no regret about the boundaries I've maintained. My chosen family continues to celebrate achievements, share genuine interest in each other's lives, and create the kind of supportive community I always imagined families should provide. The lake house has become exactly what I intended, a sanctuary built through my own efforts, shared with people who value me consistently rather than opportunistically. Sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate schemes or public confrontations. Sometimes it's simply building the life you deserve and sharing it with people who've earned the privilege of being part of it. My phone occasionally buzzes with messages from family members, usually around holidays or when Madison posts something that reminds them of what I've achieved. I respond politely but distantly, maintaining cordial relationships while protecting the peace I've worked so hard to create. The lake house taught me something valuable about success and recognition. External validation feels wonderful when it comes from people who've consistently supported your journey. But validation from people who ignored you until you had something they wanted feels hollow and manipulative. I built something beautiful, and I share it with beautiful people who understand that relationships require consistent effort, not just opportunistic interest. The lake reflects not just the sky and trees around it, but the clear boundaries and authentic connections that define my life now. Every sunrise from this deck reminds me that sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply outgrowing the people who never saw your potential. They always said they couldn't afford to celebrate me, but it turns out I could afford to celebrate myself. And that has made all the difference.